Hello, I'm Chinarivolg, and I kind of wanted to do an off-the-cuff video to talk about my creative process and projects I've got coming up, as well as projects I've done. This was spurred by my Instagram post yesterday, which was spurned by a project that I'd done. So it's kind of like an Ouroboros of sorts, but it's kind of funny how the creative process works that way in that regard, that a creation is creating creativity, but this is where we are, so hopefully this will also help with like public speaking and confidence and such, as far as speaking in general is concerned, and organization. You gotta start somewhere, after all. And for me, when it comes to starting any sort of project or new endeavor, it's obviously never easy to start anything, but I'll start with an idea, and then I'll have that idea, I suppose you could say. I know that made absolutely no sense, but it made sense in my head, as the ideas tend to do. So, I'm nothing but nerves and jitters when it comes to this, but I'm sure with enough practice and enough trial and error, I'll get used to it. So, the thing with most of the projects that I do is I'll have an idea, somewhere to start, and I'll have the conclusion in mind, obviously, because that's the idea of having an idea, which was the point that I was trying to make before, and now hopefully that makes a little more sense. But when you have the vision in your head and the end product, it's the journey along the way that gets sometimes a little bit muddled, which ironically is the complete opposite to how I would write papers in college. I would have the body as the major part and have difficulty with the introduction and the ending. With enough time and enough practice, these things become commonplace, but that's the whole thing. You need to start somewhere. And so this is kind of a video about beginnings, and hopefully something that will become easier as time goes on. So it's also a video about props and prop making, so it's hopefully going to be helpful to someone later down the line to be like, I can make things too. And the thing about me is I am a hobbyist when it comes to this stuff, and I'm not a professional artist, I'm not a professional cosplayer, but I enjoy what I do. And to me, that's what really matters. And because of that, I don't need the highest quality materials to make stuff that I'm proud of. This all started, I want to say 2013, 2014, when I started cosplaying Orihara Izaya from Durarara. I bought myself a little knife kit online. Made this dude. The first year of Colossal Con, when I brought this along, they actually thought this was a real knife, which is hilarious, because it's a kit you can buy on Amazon. It's made of wood, and all I did was modify it to look like Izaya's knife, which, through a little bit of research, and kind of a fluke actually, I discovered was Spyderco, which you can tell by the whole unimportant detail to people that don't really care about knives or Izaya or Jirara, but interesting to people in the fandom, which is a point I hope to get to later on if I remember, because that's the kind of thing about unscripted videos, is you don't have bullet points to go off of. Kind of like with the creative process, you've got an idea, you want to implement it, you just throw stuff at the wall until it sticks. So further down the Durarara line, I studied abroad in Germany and brought that cosplay along. Bought myself a cell phone, because my phone plan wouldn't cover international costs or would be like super high or something, so it was much easier to buy a phone over there, buy phone cards, and do what I had to do. So I got myself a phone, which was my first slider phone, and I wasn't sure when I got back to America if it would work or not, so I bought one specifically for the purposes of cosplay, because I was like, this phone works, if it doesn't work when I get back to America, I can still use it as a prop. lo and behold, luckily for me, it did work. And I used it for quite some time until I killed it by dropping it in a toilet twice. But the good news is, it's sanitized, it's clean, and I can still use it as a prop. While I was in Germany, finding embroidery floss was a very difficult thing, but I did so, and using friendship bracelet making techniques, I created the lanyard, and the little phone charm bobbly thing I just made out of acrylic paint, which, while I was in Germany, I also discovered, kind of accidentally. I'm not sure if it was on Tumblr or on DeviantArt, but I think it was DeviantArt, actually, about different kinds of palettes, because I've always been a huge proponent, ever since high school, of mixing my own colors, which was a thing that I didn't know was possible until I took a drawing class, which I took because I was like, I like drawing, I can do the thing, maybe I'll learn some stuff, and I did. So I learned about mixing my own colors, which, seems like a commonplace thing, but common sense isn't usually all that common anymore, I guess one could say. And while I was perusing the internets, I found the CMYK palette thing, because printers use the same colors. And it said, oh yeah, you can mix these colors and it creates a more vibrant palette. So I tried it, I liked it, I still do that. And the thing about creating on a budget is that mixing your own colors saves a lot of money. You're not buying superfluous paints that may or may not match your color exactly. And it puts you a little bit more in the creative process. You become a little bit more involved in it, which I find kind of neat. So when it came to the knife and the phone charm, I created those colors myself. Ironically, for my next Yororora cosplay and my next big prop, same thing. I created this red from magenta and yellow and a very, very negligible amount of blue, but I made it myself, and unlike the previous two things, I didn't have any sort of template. This sign I made entirely from images and just materials that I found. I decided that I had wanted to cosplay Shizuo, and also Yororora. I think I mentioned that, but I'm not 100% certain, so I'll reiterate for why not. And so after making that decision, I ordered the wig. The wig came in. I decided I wanted to make a sign, and from the cardboard that came with the wig, I created the sign face, painted that with residual German paints, because I was back in America at the time, and created the stick itself from paper towel tubes and duct tape. So just stuff I had lying around or could easily go out and purchase. That's going to be on the wall if I need it. And the stick itself didn't hold up because cardboard kind of flimsy, especially if you're waving it around and gripping it and stuff. So this is like the Mark 3 or 4 at this point. I shoved some dowel rods up there, pieces of foam, and I think I re-duct taped parts of it, like the grip, because it's intentionally made to be A, to fit my hand, and B, to be the durable anchor point for the item. The cool thing about this is, well, of course, not only did I make it myself, but I've had some of the English dub voice actors sign it so far, because they liked it too. The metal tape we just had lying around as well that my dad likes to fix machinery and such. So originally that was all duct tape, and then this as well, but the sign kept peeling off because it was too heavy, and I created like just paper, glue, and paint, and ironically that was more durable than the duct tape. So following that pattern, more or less, of prop making, it was every year I'd have one big project. So the sign was 2014, and then I think it was 2015 or 16, I had this green hoodie that I had bought, and for Halloween that year, we were told at work we could dress up as long as it didn't entirely impede our ability to work and our uniform. Like, we could still wear uniform stuff. So I decided to be Link, but it was like a closet cosplay, so it didn't need to be anything fancy. The night before, I was like, hey, I've got this broken-ass sword, so let's make it into a master sword. Grabbed some cardboard, some paper, went to town. Somebody came over and decided that she needed help and kind of commandeered the project a little bit. But at that point, I had the hilt done. I had the what's the word? The scabbard done. And the only thing she really needed to usurp was the painting. So she more or less like snatched it from me and did all the detailing and whatnot. And I was like, oh, it doesn't need to be fancy. And she was like, all right. And then I was showing her the details, and she just went to town. And this is what we got. Like, you can obviously see it's not exactly made to hold up, but it's not supposed to be. It was just a, closet cosplay prop. But on the back side, there's some paint chipping, because paint and tape don't get along very well. The things you learn. And that's why trial and error is important. So, like I said, that was 2015. So, I believe it was another couple years again until I decided to do my next project, which was for my Kagari Shusei cosplay from Psycho Pass. I made myself a Dominator. Unlike the sword and unlike the phone and the knife, again, I had absolutely no template, no basis, just some pictures and some cardboard that I got from work. They were throwing it out. So I took it home, and it took me 30 hours. The entire process is documented on my artist's Facebook page. Also, Chinari Cat, go figure. And I learned very important things through that process as well. Like, do not use tissues as paper mache. They take forever to dry, and whereas they do make some pretty interesting patterns, it's not always the result that you want. And not the easiest thing to paint either. That said, whereas I did most of this on my own, I didn't do the entire thing on my own. As I was making it, I wanted to create a functional trigger, and my dad came in with this spring. So the trigger is a lot of fun to play with, and it's there. And it works. Still, some 2 years later, which is neat. After I had finished the Dominator, my next big project was the Coco Jumbo Turtle, which, for those uninitiated in the JoJo fandom, congrats! For those who are anime only, you will meet Coco Jumbo very, very soon. And I was really proud of him as well. It took about 2 weeks to make him, but same thing as the Dominator, it was just leftover cardboard from work, glue, and tape and paint. I did the same thing I did with everything else, created my own paint, colors, through just that basic set of colors. The only thing that's not cardboard on this is the key. It's made of a bamboo skewer. Like for barbecue and shish kebabs and whatnot. And the first year that I debuted him as a prop, it was pretty amazing because I was pretty much fresh off reading Vento Arreo. And at that point, we didn't have an anime to base things off of. So there was a lot of researching the manga to find reference pictures and whatnot. But as I'm bringing him around the convention, people who had no clue what JoJo was were like, is that a real turtle? Why are you carrying a turtle around? And I'm like, no, I made him. He's a painted box turtle. And I'm proud of him. He contains tiny men. Because the whole purpose of building him, as I explained in the Instagram post, was so that I could carry the gang around, because you'll see. 7 people can fit in turtle, as I haphazardly throw them into the turtle. And now that I have 2 members of the gang that I cosplay, I can keep one in my pocket as opposed to inside the turtle. Kept on top of each other. So, after I'd finished Coco Jumbo, I was like, I need more Narancha props, because at that point, I was this guy. And I had the Medicos Aerosmith that came with him, or Little Bomber if you're into the English localizations. But I didn't want to break it any more than I already had. I broke one of the, like, little support wing things off, so instead I made a ring out of hot glue. It was just hot glue and paint. That's all this is. And specifically on the middle finger, because that's the way that Narancha rolls. And thought it was something neat and fun, fast to do. And what's cool about any and all of these props that I've made is they're low cost, but they're also durable. Poor Aerosmith had to take a trip into the washing machine because I accidentally dropped him in my laundry. Whoops. But paint job's still there, it just needs a little more paint on the one propeller to fix up. So that brings us to what I'm doing this year in 2019, because that was 2018, Coco Jumbo was 2017, etc., etc. As far as new cosplay go, I don't really have anything on the docket for myself. My boyfriend wants to cosplay Baron Zeppeli from part 1 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So, we've got Top Hat, but that's it. Obviously, we'll get there eventually, but as for what I'm doing for myself and for projects in cosplay and art and such, I wanted to make a Purple Haze hoodie because my most recent cosplay, and so far one of my more enjoyable ones, is Panacota Fugo, this guy. And Narancha was enjoyable, but I am far too tall to be a good Narancha. And physically, facially, I fit Fugo a lot better. And I don't really have a lot in the way of props or anything for him. I do have stapler, I do have access to plastic forks, but aside from that, it's nothing that I've made myself, aside from the actual costume. So I thought it'd be cool to make a Purple Haze hoodie. Purple Haze being his stand, his ability, this thing. Which, let me bring it into the light, because the light is shitty up here. And, it's something that I can wear outside of cosplay as well, and can wear when it gets cold for cosplay purposes, because I don't know if you saw this guy when I held him up briefly before, but his outfit is all holes. There is so many holes, dude. Like, when I went to Colossal Con East last year, we were shoehorned outside for the photo shoot, and the wind was vicious. There were other issues as well, but just personally, like, I was freezing, and there was really nothing I could do about it. So this hoodie is hopefully going to be something that I can use as both a prop and a personal life thing. So in regards to painting and creation and stuff, I'd say it's important to obviously just try, because you can't do anything unless you try. But in a more practical sense, as I've mentioned a couple times, there are ways to save yourself a little bit of money, like buying just the colors you need to mix. And trial and error is never a bad thing. Wear clothes that you're not too terribly committed to. It's okay to have a couple holes. But things that are comfortable as well. Like, for me, this hoodie. It's comfortable. I feel comfortable working in it, and it's not something I'm 100% committed to. So it's okay to expend a little bit. But I don't hate it either, so that's always a good thing. And these pants are well weathered. I'm pretty sure I've had them since high school as well. So they've got a hole in them. I can work in them. I can paint and not worry about making a mess. Which is another thing. Don't be afraid to make a little bit of a mess. Because in trying, you're going to fail. It's inevitable. But those failures will add up to an eventual success as long as you keep throwing stuff at it, as long as you keep going. And if you're not afraid to get your hands a little bit dirty in that regard, like, not obviously doing things that are illegal, but in delving into it wholly, into your project, yourself, and your art, then you will create something that's visually appealing, that's interesting, and it might not be the best thing ever. That's okay. If it's the best you can do at that point, that's what matters. And sometimes those things will last quite some time. So, that said, that's what I got going on for myself. Another project, something a little bit more experimental, is I've been doing a lot of research in casting, and a friend of mine had asked me last January to make him a Redstone of Asia, another JoJo thing, and I had no clue how to make any sort of, like, resin casting or whatnot, so I thought pretty much the same thing as the phone charm. I could use acrylic paint and probably some gloss medium, create something that was a little bit more translucent. Unfortunately, for me, that didn't turn out as well as I wanted it to, but like I said, you can't be afraid to fail. And with me, I did, and that's okay. I have done research since, because I will make him this thing. I promised, it's gonna happen. And in my research, I found resin, and I found that in mixing different dyes and whatnot, there are different materials in which you can mix, mica powder, inks and such. Surprisingly, I found that nail polish is good, gem-like, and translucent. So, my first try was this, just to see how casting would go. And I wanted to see if I could hold it up to the light and it, like, be translucent-ish, but unfortunately for me, I don't have the dexterity to move my phone in such a way. But it ended up being a little bit more pink than I wanted it to with the nail polish. So I found this other one, which is a lot more, a lot less viscous, and an orange one that I can mix into my red. So I've got both of those, and I did a test cast in my silicone mold, and not sure how well the colors are gonna show up, but this one's a lot more red. The issue now is sanding out the bubbles and polishing it, which is something that I'm going to use the second draft for to practice. And oh, nice. So now that I've got a light source, I can see that it does exactly what I want it to do, which is perfect. Then when it comes to the inlay, the silver part, I'm going to do exactly what I did with the Aerosmith and create that brooch part out of hot glue and then paint it silver. That way it's still lightweight, which was something that the guy wanted, as well as durable, which I feel is an important aspect to any sort of prop. You want durability, especially if you're going to be bringing this thing around or moving in it. And so that's kind of where I'm at with that as well. So, all the best to a successful 2019, all the best to everybody out there who's trying to make something, and as for me, I hope to utilize this channel a little bit more efficiently. I hope to vlog a little bit more in order to kind of fill the void that the sort of exodus from DeviantArt has been as far as journal making is concerned. And like I said before, I hope this helps somebody else out along the line as well, because I find that watching someone else's process is also sort of helpful for me. So who knows, maybe somebody else can get some sort of value out of this as well. Anyway, this is Chinaricat signing off. Catch you next time.